In this video, I'm going to tell you the 3 illegal ways that the biggest sellers and biggest businesses get away with paying little or no duties when importing into America, and specifically importing into America and selling on Amazon. As you may have heard, the US is in the middle of a trade war with, well, basically everyone. This means that companies importing from a place like China pay at least 45% in additional duties on top of the already existing duties. And just to be clear, it is not the Chinese factories who are paying these duties. It's the company that's importing those products who pay the duties. Okay, so let's talk about how to dodge tariffs 101. So the first way that sellers can get around paying tariffs on Amazon is to underdeclare the value of their goods. Take, for example, something like these exercise ropes. These exercise ropes have a cost of anywhere from $8 to $15 if you want to buy it from a factory in China. Now let's assume, to make our math easy, that they cost $10. Ordinarily, you would pay about 8% in duties. These are the base duties, or 80 cents. But in 2016, the Trump administration, number one, imposed 25% duties on Chinese goods, and another 20% this year in 2025, meaning that in addition to those base duties of 8%, you also pay an additional 45%, or $4.50. Now, these duties are all based on what you say that you paid for the exercise ropes. Now, if you've ever traveled abroad to another country and you come back into America, or whatever country it is that you're coming into, you've probably filled out a customs form asking you for the value of any goods that you purchased while on holidays. And no matter whether you're bringing back a pair of bamboo chopsticks from your vacation to the Great Wall in Beijing, or you're importing a full container of exercise ropes, the process for declaring those goods is roughly the same. It's an honesty policy. The US government trusts what you're saying is true. So what do you think sellers do on Amazon? Well, they tell the government that they didn't pay $10 for those exercise ropes. They paid $3.50. And now they're paying those duties on $3.50 instead of $10, and they've slashed their tariff rate by almost 2/3. But now you say, but Dave, I hear lying about the value of your goods is a big crime, and if the government catches you, they could fine you or even put you in jail. Well, you're absolutely right. And if you're the Liver King based in Texas, the US Customs and Border Patrol is going to come knocking at your door, arresting you, throwing you in jail, and fining you a bunch of money all at the same time. But now let's say you're a seller in Shenzhen, China. Do you think CBP is sending anyone there to make arrests? I can tell you the answer. The answer is no way. But now you say, but Dave, they can still fine the Chinese company and prevent them from selling any more in the US, right? Well, yes, you're technically right, but guess what? In the unlikely chance that they do catch the Chinese seller, they'll just open up a new Amazon account and a new business. You see, if you were a US seller and you tried that scheme of closing one business and opening up another one, well, they would just sue you and arrest you personally. So do you doubt that any Chinese company would ever try this? Well, check out this WeChat message from a Chinese supplier just a couple of days ago that a friend just sent me. The supplier is willing to help underdeclare the goods so the seller doesn't pay the full duties. Now in this case, it's not a Chinese seller who's manipulating the system. Well, they're helping the seller to manipulate the system, but the actual seller is a foreigner from a Western country, but not Chinese themselves. So in short, basically the only sellers and businesses who have to play by the rules are the ones based in America, where penalties can actually be imposed on them. Foreign sellers, whether they're from China or Timbuktu, operate with near impunity. Okay, let's talk about the second way to avoid duties. Duties are basically charged on the country of origin of those products, or in other words, where they are made. So Chinese goods get an extra 45% in duties, while almost all other countries in Asia, except for maybe North Korea, get no additional duties. So how does US Customs and Border Patrol know exactly where an item is made? Well, don't worry. They have a bulletproof system for ensuring that no importer would ever lie about this. The first technique I talked about before is called honesty. CBP assumes that you're going to be truthful when you fill in that customs form. But maybe you're skeptical that people would tell the truth on those forms. Well, don't worry, CBP has one more trick up their sleeve. So they force you to put on the package that you're importing the country that that item was manufactured in. That's why every single product that you buy has made in such and such country put on it. And of course, there is absolutely no way ever that you could possibly change that label and put another country on it. Okay, I hear you now. You're saying, Dave, if US Customs and Border Patrol see a freighter coming from China into America, well, they know that those goods have to be made in China. And you're right, of course. And the only way that an importer could possibly get around this is if they moved the goods from China to another country and made it look like they were coming from that country instead of China. But to do this, China would need to share borders with other countries with somewhat suspect governments and border officers who might be somewhat susceptible to corruption and bribery. Yeah, you know what? Forget about this last point. This type of tariff avoidance probably never happens. All right, the third way of tariff avoidance and the final way that companies get around duties is by misclassifying items. You see, every product that you import gets assigned a product code or an HS code. There's a near universal system called the Harmonized Classification System, which assigns one of thousands of different product codes to each product. So, something like a garlic press gets one HS code, and a bench press gets another HS code. And each product gets a different amount of duty. So, for example, exercise ropes might get a base duty of 7.2% in duty plus 25% of those 2016 Trump tariffs and another 20% of the 2025 tariffs. But there's many products that actually have 0% base duties and have reduced or exempted 2016 duties. So, for example, a jump rope might have 0% base duties and just 7.5% 2016 duties instead of 25%. So if you simply told the government that your exercise rope was in fact a jump rope, you could save potentially 20% or more in duties. Well, how would the government ever know if your exercise rope is not a jump rope? Well, first getting back to that bulletproof technique we talked about before, it's called the honesty policy. CBP assumes that you are telling them the truth when you declare your product and what it is. Now, if that fails, they could theoretically inspect your products upon importing into America. But allow me to tell you this, in 15 years of importing hundreds of containers into America, I've had only a handful of shipments ever inspected, and they've inspected for drugs and bugs, but never to actually verify that my goods are truly what I said they were. And again, if you did, by some lottery draw, actually get caught misclassifying your items, the threat of punishments is way more threatening to an individual or business residing in America than a foreign one operating from the security of a country thousands of miles away with no extradition agreement with America. So ultimately, right now, Americans and American businesses are at a complete disadvantage when it comes to tariffs. Why? Because basically they are the only ones who can get thrown in jail or have the IRS dipping into their bank accounts to take away fines. Potentially, if there was more enforcement available before goods actually even got imported into America, this wouldn't be such a problem. But here's the kicker. Because of government cutbacks and programs like the Department of Government Efficiency, there's actually less money being made for enforcement of tariff collection. And the higher the tariffs go, the more incentive there will be to break the rules and a bigger disadvantage that American businesses will be at. So until the next one, happy importing and happy selling.